Thank you for having me here today. And to everyone listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever part of the world you're listening to, or whenever you're listening to this podcast. Thank you for being here. And to all the veterans out there, thank you for your service. I really appreciate it.
Man, what a great intro, man. Dude, so you've had a pretty incredible journey. You started humble beginnings in Ecuador, eventually moved to the US at age 12, which I feel like is a pretty weird time to move from Ecuador to the United States. So what was life like growing up for you, and then what ultimately led you to joining the Marine Corps after you came to the United States?
Yes. So life was very good growing up. As a child, you pretty much don't know what's going on with life, don't know that you're poor, don't know that you don't have much, don't know that your mom is struggling to raise two single kids on her own. So pretty much all you want to do is just play and have fun, right? So that was pretty much my life. But because my mom worked very hard and she put me in private school since I was very little, we're very young, I used to see other friends and other kids that will go to school with me having more than me. So kind of like that drive, that fire in me of that I want to be at the same level, I want to be better than them, started like digging down deep into me since very young. At 12 years old, I was very fortunate enough that after my mom leaving us in Ecuador for like a couple of years to come to the United States, uh, find her path, was able to bring us to the United States. And growing up in the United States, one of the things that I always wanted to do, I always wanted to be in the military. I always looked up to, the uniform, the men in uniform, how nice it looks and how cool it was. And growing up in the United States, of course, you become a very big patriot and you want to fight for your country and do things for your country. And to me, that was one of the things that I wanted to do. And sure enough, I wanted to be Top Gun. I wanted to fly jets and do
Yeah.
those cool missions. And grew up watching Top Gun. But unfortunately, while I was growing up, I wasn't very good at school. I was a C, D average student. So I didn't think I was smart enough. And I applied to the Air Force Academy. The Air Force Academy said, no way. We need somebody smarter than you. We need somebody with good grades to come in and fly those jets. So my dreams kind of got shut down at that moment. And then I was hanging around with the wrong crowd and I got arrested. And I'm like, I need to change my life because I was the first person in my whole family tree to graduate from high school. And of course, I
Mhm.
felt really bad because everyone looked up to me. So what did I have to do? I'm like, okay, I need to change my life. So I'm going to join the military. And of course, and excuse me, because I know you're an army guy.
Hey,
I had
it's
to
all
join
in
the best
fun.
of the best. So of course, I went into the Marine Corps.
Yeah, yeah. Did you look at any other branches besides? Well, obviously the Air Force Academy, but they told you no.
Yes.
I tried to
Well,
go to the Air Force and the Navy to fly like you did, and they told me go get fucked because I wear glasses. So
yes.
that I
So
was doomed from the
no,
beginning.
I didn't look at other branches. I think the Marines were on top of my list because I knew they were the badass. So I just went for that one, and I knew they did everything. So in my head, I'm like, okay, you know what? They also have the air part, so I might end up doing flying over there with them.
Oh, so you did end up flying in the military then?
No, I did not. I did
No,
not.
you didn't. What? So
No.
what was your job when you joined the Marine Corps?
I went in an open contract. So for those of you listening, you know what open contract means, right?
That's dangerous,
Uh,
brother.
Very dangerous, very dangerous. And to me, I actually got an MOS that I never thought in my life that I will get, and it was a truck driver. So never in my
Okay.
wildest dreams would I thought that I would be a truck driver, right? And just to get ahead of this, and to everyone listening, is that sometimes there are things in our lives that we don't want, but God has a huge plan for our lives. So we kind of have to follow God's plan. So at that moment, and the reason I'm sharing this right now is because even though I didn't want to be a truck driver and I complained while I was in the military about being a truck driver, 20 years later, I ended up buying a transportation company that made me millions of dollars. So, something that I didn't want to do, God was putting me in a path because I was gonna need whatever I learned at that time for something bigger in the future.
There's a lesson in everything, brother. And I'm so glad that you're pointing this out so early in our conversation because if you just know where to look for it, man, you can use that to your advantage later in life. And it's cool to hear that that's how you did that, man. So, as a truck driver, any deployments? When did you actually join?
I joined in 1998, and my first duty station, I was like, I'm gonna live in the United States my whole life. Might as well be overseas. So I went to Okinawa, Japan. That was my first duty station. I was there for a year, and I got to go on the 31st MEU. to Korea. So I had a great time there. And then when I came back, I started working on the S3. So I only did motor transport for a couple of months, for like about 4 or 5 months. Once I came back, I was working on the S3 office as a logistic coordinator. Imagine more learning for what I was going to do in the future. As a
Yep.
logistic coordinator, coordinating everything in the whole island of Okinawa. And from there, I did a very good job, and I got recommended to start doing embassy duty. So right after leaving Japan, I went to Quantico, Virginia. I trained to become a Marine security guard. I graduated like on top of my class, so I got recommended to go to a top tier threat post, and that was Moscow, Russia. So I did Moscow for a year, and then I went to Chile. I got to pick Chile, and while I was in Moscow, I got to go to Europe and do a couple of training events, fan firing, and everything else in other countries. The same thing when I was in Chile. So I had a great military career. My 4.5 years was amazing. I traveled the world. I lived in the embassies. I got to work with the FBI, DEA, CIA, Department of State, you name it. So just by opening my mind to all those amazing things, I realized that the military wasn't part of my life anymore right after that. And that's one of the main reasons I left the military right after that.
Dude, it's you're not the only person I've had on here that was a Marine that got to do embassy duty, and they all talk so highly of embassy duty and how cool it was in their career and how much opportunity came with that. So, what kind of things did you learn that would later on help you doing the embassy duty stuff? I mean, I'm sure working with DEI or DIA and FBI, CIA. I'm sure you worked with all those guys. I'm sure that taught you some important lessons, but I'm sure there was some other lessons that you learned on embassy duty that really did help you in the future. Anything come to mind?
I think the biggest one is that, a lot of times that we like the military because it's part of the government, it's something good, it's a good career, right? Which it is a good career for some of us. And we realize that if we want to be on the government side, it's better to instead of to be on the federal side, because once you become on the federal side, you have all these extra opportunities with less of the red tape that comes in the military. So meaning that you have more opportunities of advancement, more opportunities of learning more things, more of opportunities of traveling the world to a lot of different places. And for example, a lot of people that work in the embassies, whenever you go to a different country, you're surrounded like by the top of the creme of the people that you're surrounded with. So you're getting to meet high influential people. So when you leave that and you build those relationships, you have very good relationships to do other things in life.
Oh man, I'm so glad you touched on that because it's one of the things I've identified just from talking to other entrepreneurs on this show is one of the most important things that we get wrong in the transition is the networking piece and learning how to leverage your network. So, you're already touching on that and you saw that pretty early on, which I think is awesome. And you also said something, you said you knew at the end of your 4.5 years, it was time. It was time to get out. The military wasn't something that was going to be permanent for you. So when the time, if you joined in 98, you did 4.5 years, that means 9/11 did happen. So were you conflicted at all as a Marine with, knowing that there's deployments on the horizon, that you could go to war with your country and kind of do the thing that you signed up to do? Or were you just dead set on like, nope, I'm getting out, I'm going to go make my own way?
I knew that I was going to get out. Right when I was getting out, Iraq happened. My brother joined the Marine Corps like in around 2001. My younger brother, and he got into security forces, so he was in Bahrain at the moment, and then he decided to go to Iraq. So the moment he went to Iraq, when I got called in to see if I wanted to go there, I decided no, because my mom was suffering so much just knowing that my brother was out there in war, and he was a grunt, so they were the first in to fight, and I chose not to go because of that.
Yeah, smart choice. I was a grunt also, so I could tell you from experience that that was a wise choice. So let's talk about your decision to get out. Did you have a plan when you decided to get out, or did you just know that it was time to get out and you would figure something out?
I was young, 22 years old, and like many young kids at that age, we think we have an idea of what we want to do in life. And to me, was my plan was, let me go work for the Federal Air Marshals for a while until I get my bachelor's degree, because you think you're going to be able to get your degree in the military, and it's very tough to do that. I
Yeah,
was able
no,
to do
not
only
doing
two
that.
years. So when I left, my goal was, okay. Let me go work for the FAA for a while. Let me get my bachelor's degree. After I get my bachelor's degree, let me go back into and work for the DEA or the CIA because I met this cool guys that were doing some cool things. I'm like, I want to do those cool things. Like, I want to go like undercover into the guerrilla and all these things, and kick butt like in the movies. But sure enough, just before getting out, my mom goes, I'm telling my mom what I wanted to do, and she's like, "Well, why don't you just become a developer?" And I'm like, in my mind, I had no idea what a developer was. Like, what's a developer? And between that as well, what I wanted to do is I wanted to do technology because I met some people that used to work in the embassies. Because once you get the top secret clearance, they travel the world. They go to the embassies. They work on the servers. So I'm like, oh, mate, that's a cool job. Like, I would love to do that as well. So those two things were in my mind. My mom goes, become a developer. I'm like, what's a developer? She's like, you buy land, you build houses, you sell them. Huh? Like to me, I'm like, oh, that's simple. I love this. Buy a land, build a house, and sell it. My God, like that's easy. And he's like, and you make good money. I'm like, how do you know? So she's like, oh, because I have a client. My mom does insurance, commercial insurance. So she's like, I have a client as a developer. He just bought this piece of land for 50,000, built a house on it, cost him 100,000, and sold it for 300,000. He just made 150K in 6 months. I'm like, no way. So left the Marine Corps with a lot of debt, raised $100,000 worth of money to start the first venture, and I became a developer, like leaving the Marine Corps. And in 2006, I already had like close to $20 million in assets in real estate.
That's amazing, man. And you just said something that I think will resonate with any veteran listening to this is you got out of the Marine Corps with a lot of debt and then you raised $100,000. So one of the most common questions I get from transitioning veterans who are interested in entrepreneurship, besides the fact that they didn't know that entrepreneurship is an avenue that they can take to live their lives, they're stuck in the get a corporate 9 to 5 with a college degree and hate your life for the next 40 years and whatnot. So they don't know where to start or how to take that action. So you recognize through your mom telling you, be a developer, buy some land, put a building on it, sell it, make 100% profit, right? Double your money, and then just flip that back into the next project and kind of keep doing the same thing. How did you approach initially raising that first $100,000? Because there's a lot of us out here who don't know how to go about that.
Right. And I think it's about your network, right? So to me, at the beginning, I had a big help because it was my mother. She's the one that really believed in me, really trust me. I was able to tell her, hey, I'm going to pay you back no matter what. And what did she do? She didn't have the money, but she went and she put her house and put a line of equity of credit from her house. And she invested in me. And of course, I pay her back. But, maybe a lot of people that are listening might say, oh, he had his mom to help him out. But now let's hold that there for a second on the judgment, because let's talk about what happened in 2007 when I went bankrupt. So 2007, I went bankrupt. I lost everything. I went to zero again. And this time, my mom couldn't help me out. So what did I have to do? I had a good friend of mine that after a while of feeling sorry for myself that I lost so much money and I made millions and I lost everything, I had to like get up and adapt and overcome and realize that if I did it once, I could do it again. And then, sure enough, we're going into this personal development program. And that's one of the things that I learned a lot, that you have to have mentoring. In order for you to continue growing, to continue changing your mindset, to continue improving, you have to have the good mentors. So I went to this event, this weekend event, 3-day event, and it completely shifted my mindset. I got a good mentor in there at that moment. I got a couple of friends that I met that were teaching me how to change my mindset, how to become more resilient and everything else. So when I came back, I had a new perspective in life. I'm like, oh, I'm going to make it again. And sure enough, a couple of weeks later, a good friend of mine from the Marine Corps calls me. He's like, Edwin, I got a great business opportunity. And I'm like, okay, what is that? He's like, let's go into the gold business. I'm like, okay, how much money do we need? He's like, we need $300,000. I'm like, don't worry. And within a month, I went out and I raised $300,000. And so when people come and ask me, it's like, but you need money to start a business. I always tell them, yes, you do need money to start a business, but you do not need to have the money to start the business. There's plenty of money in the world out there, and there's plenty of people willing to give you the money if you're able to back it up.
That's right. You can use other people's money, and that's the best way to do it, right? Is use other people's money. No, I think you hit on some really important points there, right? So made millions, 2007, go bankrupt. We all know what happened 2007, 2008, the real estate market, the housing bubble crashed, right? A lot of people lost a lot of money, and you went to zero. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, that's the first thing you need to realize. You have to be willing to go to zero, right? You have to accept that that is a very real possibility in your journey. However, you can avoid going to zero. I don't think that everybody has to go to zero, but if you're not willing to go to zero and you can't stomach that, you're probably not in the right line of work. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I think every great entrepreneur, every great successful person has hit failure at some time in their life. I mean, we even think about the greatest one, right? Elon Musk. Look, I mean, he talks about how he was bankrupt, and we talk about he was in $100 million status. So uh, every great successful entrepreneur hits failure once or twice in their lifetime. I mean, I hit multiple times, so I know what that is like.
Yeah, it probably doesn't scare you anymore either because now you have complete confidence in yourself. You've done it multiple times. You know exactly what to do the next time that happens, and it's going to be okay, right?
Yes, yes, yes. It's okay. But the one thing that I learned now that my failures are not as big as they used to be because having the right mentors in my life, yes, they help me avoid the huge failures. I still make mistakes, I still make failures, but they're not as big where I need to start again from zero again. I don't need to reset every time.
Well, and that was the second point that I wanted to touch on is you talked about how important it is to find coaches and mentors. And I truly believe you're not going to get anywhere close to where you're trying to go if you think you can do it on your own. And, I have several mentors. I'm fortunate enough to be hooked up with American corporate partners. I have a ACP mentor right now. I've got them for the next like 9 months. It's great. They give you a mentor for free for a year. I've learned so much in just the 3 months I've been working with him that just like it's opened so many doors and opened my mind to so many different things that I didn't even know existed that are possible. And I love that you talk about that because nobody got to where they are on their own. They didn't do it by themselves. Somebody, I don't care if it's Elon Musk or Donald Trump, the infamous businessman, or any number, Edward Carrion, right? Edwin Carrion, right here. Like he's telling you, he's built multi-million-dollar businesses, and he's done it with the help of mentors. Like it's so important.
Yes, and that's one of the main reasons that at the beginning when I was younger, I used to use the word that self-made. But now again,
Ah,
I don't use that word anymore because I know that no one is self-made. I'm God-made, so I always call God-made millionaire because I give by saying that I'm giving the credit to everyone that helped me out to be where I am right now. All my business partners, all my mentors, my employees, the people that are below me that are helping me get to the top. Because it takes a village to get somebody to the top. You cannot do it on your own. And when you talked about can you become very successful by yourself without having mentorship? Yes, of course you can. But the path to getting there is going to be long and it's going to be hard and you might not even get there. But when you
yeah.
have the right mentor that has been there where you want to get to, where you want to do, then the path to the success is a lot faster, a lot easier.
Yeah, and then the third point in what you talked about there was the failure part, and I think I have a unique approach to this. I almost welcome failure in my life at this point because I really truly believe that when I fail now, I'm failing one forward, but I'm failing to learn a lesson that I need to unlock the next step of my journey. And I think it's only through those failures that it's possible to learn those lessons. Do you have any opinions on that?
Oh no, definitely. I always say God doesn't give you anything you cannot handle, and He's preparing you for the next big thing. So, in order for you to be ready for the next challenge, in order to be ready for the next victory, those failures have to be there because those are going to be the where your skin grows deeper. So you're not afraid of a no. You're not afraid of I fail. You're not afraid of looking at your bank account at zero, maybe negative. It builds you the thicker skin to know that what you're doing, and if you can stay consistent you're going to achieve what you're working towards. And the ones that the moment that they see that negative on their account and they quit, the ones that they know they the moment they hear the no and they quit, those are the ones that are not made for that. They still need to build that thicker skin on them.
Yeah. So, with your first foray into entrepreneurship being in the real estate development side of things, how long did it take you? How long was that road, and what were some of the challenges you faced in building and scaling that business to multiple six, seven figures?
It was very fast, and I think the reason that it happened, and I know the reason it happened because it happened a couple of times to me, is that you hear sometimes you have to be at the right place at the right time, but you truly have to be the right person at the right place at the right time that is going to take the action when the opportunity comes to you. So when I left the Marine Corps, it was 2002. The real estate market, which is starting to go up. So it was very easy for me to scale really fast because what I did is I created a model that it worked, and I continued duplicating the model over and over and over again. And then repetition became the key to success. And that's why I was able to scale so fast and grow so fast to over $20 million in assets in just 4 years. And I did the same thing when I went into the jewelry business. When after I went bankrupt, I got into the jewelry business. The moment that I figure out that business model works, that right away we created a system, we created processes, we figure out how can we duplicate this. And the moment we figured that out, we started duplicating. And in less than 2 years, after being bankrupt with negative $300,000 in debt, right after 2 years, we were working 5 hours per week, making $1 million profit per month.
Wow. Is that still possible today?
with with
With
business,
jewelry?
yes.
With jewelry? With jewelry?
With jewelry, yes, it's still possible to scale that fast. Yes, it is possible with any business. I think it's possible. Now you just have to have the drive to want to be into that business.
I love it, man. Because you said jewelry, and immediately my head goes to damn Instagram and TikTok videos. I love watches. I love watches. I wear a stupid Apple Watch, but I've always, since a little kid, my grandfather was a World War II vet. He had his watch. He was always buying me a new watch. I've always been fascinated by watches, and I've talked to tons of people. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I've talked to tons of people who say there's so much money in watch collecting, and I'm like,
There,
man, is
there is. I mean,
like
the watch that I was showing you right now, I purchased that watch for $8,000 in 2017. Right now, that watch is worth $11,000, and I get to wear a fancy, nice watch whenever I want, and that's like my daily watch. That's why I have it on my desk right now, sitting on my desk. But it's appreciating value, right?
it's
Versus a lot of
awesome,
people that buy a watch, the moment that they buy a watch, they lose a lot of money. And
right?
when you start looking at watch collections, yes, watches. I have a watch that I bought for like that doubled in price, that now is worth like over $200,000. That one watch.
That's so awesome, man. And you get to wear an appreciating asset. That's awesome. That's so
Not,
cool.
not only you get to wear it, but now once you start getting into the right circles, that's
Yes.
a conversation piece that is sparse conversation. And the moment that somebody comes to you, it's like, oh, I love your watch and this and that. You start building that relationship, and now it becomes either you get a customer, you get an investor, you get somebody to do business with, you get a business partner. It opens up relationships. It opens
Oh
up
man,
opportunities.
I love that you're touching on this right now because my wife doesn't understand the watch thing. She just thinks it's just like, oh, look at me, I got so much money. And I'm like, yeah, there's that aspect of it too, right? People do buy them for that reasons, but they are an appreciating asset for the most part. And I heard this in 50 Cent's book. He talks about this in his book because of a watch he was wearing on his wrist at a party that he was at some point in his early career. It opened the door for him to do so many other things or whatever. It just made a connection for him. And I've actually experienced this firsthand myself when I was in the insurance industry. I tied my tie into what's called a Trinity knot, and I did not believe, like, somebody had told me, like, I don't know where I heard it or who gave me the advice. One of my mentors was like, just find a different way to tie your tie than just the regular Windsor or whatever when you go to this Christmas party. And I guarantee you will walk away with more business cards than you can count and countless valuable conversations. So I did. I learned how to tie the Trinity knot because I liked it. And I'm telling you, from the minute I went downstairs at that party at that hotel to hours and hours later, everybody would walk up to me, and it was such a conversation starter. And it's like that's another aspect of networking to set yourself apart. It's just something as simple as a tie or a watch can start a whole conversation that can change your life. So thank you for touching on that, man, because it's important.
Make sure your wife watches this piece right here, okay? Make sure
Yeah.
you use this when you cut this one. No, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's reality. Look, it's opened up a lot of doors for me. It's opened up a lot of conversations, and it's creating a lot of good opportunities. And I'll share this one last one right here with you. I was at a Lamborghini event where we went to drive Lamborghinis on the track, and I was wearing my watch, my Hublot watch, and there's another guy that stands next to me, and he's wearing a Hublot as well. And he's like, "Oh, you like hublots?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're pretty nice." He's like, "Oh, I just got this one. My wife got me this one." Well, needless to say, to make long story short, the guy that I was talking to just sold his company for $110 million, and now we're friends. So it builds those type of relationships, right? But because cars are the same thing, cars depends how you buy them, they become assets. I love cars as well. So when you drive up with a Lamborghini, when you drive up with a McLaren, with a Bentley somewhere, it's a conversation piece. But the only difference between that is that they see you on the street with it. So that means that the moment that you walk into the lobby, onto the bar, into whatever you're going to, they don't see the car, the kind of car that you're driving. So to have a better conversation piece, to have a better status piece, that's where the watches come in.
I love that, man. What's your favorite car?
Ah, Lamborghini.
Is it? I feel
Yes.
like they're so small. I stand next to them, and I'm like 6'3", so like
Okay.
probably not a car for
You are a
me.
lot
I don't
taller
know.
than yes.
I,
Yeah.
I'm a I'm a truck guy. I'll stick to trucks. Have you had
I
the
love
have you?
exotics.
I really do like the Koenigseggs though. Those are really sweet cars. I'd
Oh yeah.
love to see one in person, but someday. We're not there yet. Um, you've mastered the art of building scalable and sellable businesses, and I assume you've done that through. You've hinted at it a couple of times already on the show, but that's really through the systems you set up in those businesses. Correct? Would you say
Yes.
you're a systems guy?
Yes. Yes. Systems, processes, mindset. Those all
So
go hand in hand.
So one of the first things I always hated when I first got into learning about building a business and trying to get my piece of internet money, or however you want to look at that, became an entrepreneur, is you find all these gurus on YouTube who talk about systems this and systems that. And I really just wanted to know, what the fuck is a system? Nobody ever tells you what a system is. They just tell you need to have the proper systems in place. It's not the case anymore. I know what a system is, but I'd like to hear your definition of a system, and really what allowed you to figure out these systems and processes and how you became so successful with them.
Okay. Think of it as a checklist, right? System is a checklist. What checklist are you going to follow in order for you to do something every day? And a checklist could be as simple as when you get out of bed. What is the first thing that you do when you get out of bed? You open your eyes. That's the first thing you have to do before you get out of bed. You open your eyes. You pull the blankets to the side. You put your feet on the floor and you go to the bathroom and pee. That's your checklist. That's your going to be your non-negotiable everyday checklist. So if you want somebody to replace you, they have to follow these four things every single day. If you notice something went wrong throughout the day, it's because they missed one of these things. So pretty much the system is creating a checklist for somebody to be able to do the things that you want them to do. And that's so whenever that person gets fired, whenever person that leaves, or whenever you need to bring somebody new to continue adding to the same position, you don't have to waste your valuable time training them. All they need to do is follow those checklists that you provide to them. And how did I come good at those checklists? I think part of that became in the military, because in the military we have so many acronyms, so
SOPs.
many SOPs. So when you start thinking about the SOPs, the acronyms, it's MIAC, this and that, pretty much you start applying that to your business, and that's what's going to get your business to become very successful, because that's the only way you could check if somebody did something the right way. Or whenever there's a mistake, that's how you could check if somebody missed something. You and I know that, I mean, we talked about this a little bit before the show, that we're pilots, right? We
Yes,
have a
sir.
checklist every time we fly. What
Every time.
happens? What happens? Because we know this and we've flown so many hours, sometimes we think we don't need the checklist. But if we
No,
crash, what does it mean? That we miss one thing on the checklist, right? That
every
there's
time.
something that we didn't do. And if we don't follow the checklist, even though we might know the checklist by heart, it could cost our families' lives, or it could cost our lives. So we know because of that, that checklist is extremely important in life, when we
I,
fly, right? So the same thing goes
absolutely.
for business. Whenever I had my employees that they make a mistake, they're like, no, but I did everything right. I'll sit down with them and I go through the checklist. I'm like, okay, step number one, done. Step number two, done. Step number three, missed. Step number four, done. There's your mistake. You missed step number three. You missed step number two, because they think they know it. They think they memorize it. And through the craziness of the day, through the craziness of their families, through the craziness of their personal life, they miss one of the steps on that checklist. And that's where the mistakes happen.
I love that breakdown, man. And that's really what kind of made me realize what a system was after I finished flight school and I started building, whatever it is I'm building at this point. I started realizing this is no different than flying. There's a checklist for emergency procedures. You probably know the checklist for how to get out of a spin, by heart. I hope you do, because it's like one of the things they drill home at flight school,
Yeah.
right? There's a before takeoff checklist. There's an after takeoff check.
Yeah,
Yeah.
before takeoff,
So,
after takeoff, during this wind, during this less wind,
yep.
prior to landing, before landing. Like there's a lot.
Yep. No, and that's great. So, being that you've worked with so many different businesses and you are highly sought after as a mentor in the business space, and systems really seem to be your thing, have you noticed that there's some generic systems that every business should implement that maybe don't implement, that they can start implementing right now to help them be better?
Yes, no, I do. And for all those listeners that are staying here until the end, uh, because I'm here on the Veteran Podcast, one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to give every single one of you this one thing that only my paid clients get, and it's called my Business Super Stack, and it's going to have all these things that I'm talking about to accelerate their success in business. Right. So the one thing, the one piece that 90% of entrepreneurs miss is having a business plan, and it goes back into the basics, right? And I always love this saying that, and this quote, that if you don't know where you're going, you will eventually get there. So having a business plan, pretty much that if we don't know where we're going to get there. And I always make this metaphor. It's like, okay, if I tell you to come to my house, you know, and you tell me, fine, Edwin, I'll go to your house. And if I don't give you the address, you will eventually get to my house. You'll eventually figure out how to get to my house, right? So it's the same thing with the business plan. If you don't have a business plan, you will eventually figure out what you're trying to do, where you want to go, and how to get there. But having that business plan is that roadmap of exactly knowing how do you want to get there. And that's the reason that when I start every single business, I take it to multi-million dollars right away, is because of that business plan. I know in my head exactly how, what I want, how I'm going to get there, what do I need to do, and how the market is.
Oh man, that's pretty powerful, because I started with no business plan, and then my ACP mentor sent me straight to IVMF and to do the Boots to Business reboot program, where they spend an entire day. It's like 10 hours long, running you through all the basics. But then they give you like a lean startup business plan template, and then they give you a traditional long form business plan template. Mine ended up being like 50 pages long, but it was so informative, filling that thing out and really taking a long, hard look at everything from, how are you going to generate revenue, to what customer acquisition costs are going to be, to, what your run rates and revenue are going to look like, and, what your first year profit margins are going to be, and any legal considerations you need to have. It was so informative, sitting down and doing that. And I couldn't agree with you more. It makes you so much better by sitting down and doing that.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So that's one of the things that I think a lot of entrepreneurs miss. But I think the biggest one, the next one, when we talk about this, what are they missing? We're going to, they don't have the mindset. So a lot of them want to hit the $1 million. They want to hit the 8 figures, right? But they do not have the mindset, the millionaire mindset that I call it, to get there. And what do I mean by that? Like, if you want to get to $1 million, but you're afraid of spending $100,000, $200,000, that means that $100,000 scare you. How are you going to get to a million? Because if you're scared of $100,000, then you're not going to get to the $1 million. It has to come to a point in your life when I tell you this is $50,000, you're going to be like, oh, 50K, that's okay. Is $100,000? Oh, $100,000 is okay. It's $1 million? Oh, it's only $1 million, right? But if you're looking at, it's 10 grand, that's a lot. You're not ready for that $1 million. That mindset has to be a millionaire mindset.
This is such a good point, because I have a friend who taught me this. He's like, as you start to grow in your business, money starts to have less value. You start to look at, a lot of people look at $500 as a lot of money, right?
Yes.
And then you get this point where, oh, it's just $500. I can make that back in a month, right? Like, and then you kind of level up on your journey, right? Like, I'm not ready to sit here and spend $100,000. That's not realistic where I'm at in my business right now. But when the time comes for that $100,000 opportunity and I've got it, you best believe my mindset will be, okay, as long as I can, see the value in spending this 100,000 that's going to get me to that million, let's go. Like, it's not a lot of money. And I think that's the other thing that changes your mindset. As you start making money, you'll understand that $10,000 is not a lot of money. I hear often a lot of people want to get to that $10,000 a month mark. Well, if you really break that down, that's only 120 grand a year. That's not a lot of money.
No, it's not.
you
And
know
that's why when it goes back, is a reminder. Look, to have an $11,000 watch is sitting on my desk because it doesn't mean a lot anymore. It's just a watch, right? We're not putting together we're not idolizing the money, or we're not idolizing the value that it has to it. We're looking at what is it that we want to get out of life? What is it that we want to build? And to me, it's understanding that the bigger that we build something, the bigger that we build a business, the more lives that we're going to impact, the more people that we're going to take care of, the more families that we're going to be able to feed. It's about what is the impact going to have into our growth of the business. When we start looking at that instead of the monetary side, you know, we're able to continue growing a lot faster.
I totally agree with you. It's the mindset shift in looking at money as not a thing that you should acquire, but as a tool to move you further along wherever you're trying to go. And I love that, man. I want to ask you, how important is leadership development when building a team to operate these giant businesses? And how scary was that for you at first when you started turning that over and you're not being so involved in the day to day, right? Like that, I feel like that's a big challenge. Probably, the first time a business goes to scale, right? Is like when you start, because right now I'm very much in my business every single day, long hours, because that's what it takes right now, right? Like building from the ground up, that's what it takes. You're going to be in it before you're going to be on it, and you're going to be in it a lot, and you become attached to that. And then there's going to come a time, in order to scale and to make more or do more or whatever, you're going to have to let a lot of that shit go and turn it over to other people. So can you talk about the leadership development involved in that, and then kind of how you combated those feelings with turning your baby over to somebody else?
Yes, and to touch on that, I'm sorry, 1 second here. Okay, to touch on that, I call that the entrepreneur ego. And a
Okay.
lot of entrepreneurs have this ego that nobody could do anything better than I can, right? I'm the only one that could do this, and I'm the only one that could do that, because they're so afraid of letting go. But one of the things that I tell every single one that they need to understand is that the more help that you have, the more that you're able to focus your time into what you're really good at. And to me, it was never hard to delegate. To me, I think I have always been a great delegator because I like life to be easy for me. I like to be the visionary. At a young age, I think I was always like that, like delegating things to my little brother and to everybody, right? Even in the Marine Corps, like I remember this one fight, and I'll bring out this story with one of my good friends. He was a sergeant, I was a corporal at that time. He's like, Edwin, I need you to clean the room, whatever, the bay, the kitchen, or whatever. He needed me to clean something. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna clean that.
I'm
He's
gonna
like,
go get the
well,
privates to do it.
I'm like, yeah. I'm like, no, get somebody else to do it. I'm like, no, Edwin, I need you to do it. I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. He's like, if you don't do it, I'm gonna have to write you up. I'm like, do whatever you want, bro, but I'm not doing it. Of course, he's a good friend of mine. I took advantage of the situation, but it just tell you that you start standing your ground for what you're good at and what you want to do and what you're not willing to do. And I think very early on, I really understood that my place in life is of that visionary, of growing things, of scaling things, of putting things together, putting the right people on the right seats, on the right places, and looking at the structure of growth. And because I was really honed into that, I make sure that I always started hiring people. And at the beginning, I used to develop people into those seats, into those opportunities. But as time went on, I realized that it's a waste of time doing that. It's better to hire somebody that has the skills, that has the experience into what you're looking for, so like that you're able to grow faster, because now It's less of you that you have to micromanage and less of you that you have to create SOPs and things like that because they already come with the knowledge. And all you have to do is tweak what they have to make it fit for you.
I love that you're touching on this right now because I this is something that I recognized really early on. Before I had any revenue or anything like that, I brought two people into my business because they're better at things, their specific areas, and I knew that than I am. And it's very hands off for me. I just tell them what I need and they implement. And it's so great because now all of my time is better spent doing what I'm good at and what I enjoy doing, and I don't have to worry about that aspect of things. And I would encourage anybody, and this may be not great advice. I don't know. You're better at this than I am, but I encourage anybody to get out there and find, if you need branding work done for your business, go find somebody who is a graphic designer who needs portfolio work and offer them discount, small amount of money to do what they do for portfolio work. Use you as a case study. You can leverage your position and their position to get shit done that you can't do yourself or that they can do better. And I encourage that because it's worked well for me. It unlocked so many things for me.
Yes, offer them equity, offer them something because I always say I'd rather have a little piece of a lot than a big piece of nothing.
Yeah, that's
So
exactly where I was going with that. Because you've built so many multi-million dollar businesses, I wanted to ask you how you felt about that. I really have a big firm stance on I'd rather have 45% of something that was my idea and cut other people in to help me get there faster and better than hold on to 100% of nothing. Do you agree with that?
100%. But with the learning lessons that I had in my life, the one thing is that whenever we're bringing somebody in to partner up with us, is that we have to do a extreme detail due diligence. Like we want to make sure that all the skeletons are out of the closet, that there's nothing in there because it could bite you on the butt, right? And it happened to me. Um, 2 years ago, I lost almost, in total, we lost almost $5 million because I partnered up with the wrong person. And I got into legal problems and all of that because I didn't do the due diligence that I should have done. I kind of did due diligence, but I didn't go deep enough into really finding out all the details of what they were being told, that what they were telling me. So when somebody tells you something, if they tell you that they left their job because they're making twice as much money, find out if that's the truth or if they got fired. If somebody tells you that they never been in jail, find out have they really been in jail or not. And the thing is, it doesn't matter, if you're a criminal, if you've been in jail, if you've been this, if you lost money. That's part of who you are and who makes you. But if you hide that to get into business with somebody else, that's when the problems are starting to become. And the other thing is that whenever you partner up with somebody, make sure that they have your same beliefs and your same values, because that is one of the driving forces to continue growing. And I lost a lot of good partnerships because of those values as well, for not being on the same page. Like I love working with my wife, and I had a business partners that they never wanted their wives in the business because they will do shady crap, and I'm not like that. So the values weren't aligned, so we had to part our ways.
I'm so glad you just brought up your wife because one thing that stands out to me is you are a family man and you've somehow figured out how to balance massive business success with family life. So how do you do that? How do you do that and avoid burning out and stretching yourself too thin?
Yes, and it's I'm going to put that one with one word. You set boundaries, and that's the one word, boundaries. And it took me a while to learn that. It took a hard while. It took almost a divorce and fights with my wife because I'm a workaholic. I love to create business. I love to work, but at the same time, I'm a huge family guy. I love my family a lot. So you have to find a balance, and to have the balance you have to have those boundaries. So the boundaries for me is that 9 to 5, it's my time, it's Edwin's time. I get to do whatever the heck that I want to go get a haircut, I want to go meet up with a friend, I want to go drive my car, I want to drive my I want to fly my drone, I want to be on a podcast, I want to work. That's my free time. 9 to 5, Edwin is a free man. 5 p.m. comes around, it's family time, no more work. I got 8 hours in my day to do whatever I want, and I have to make those in and plug them in as much as I want. So whenever your boundary you're set to only 8 hours a day, and you want to have fun within those 8 hours, then you have to figure out how can I become very productive in my work, so I don't have to work as much, make a lot of money, but I still have a lot of fun. That's when those priorities come in of delegating. Now you become a good delegator because if you want to free up your time, the thing that you need to do is start delegating more, right? And you start looking for the right people, you start delegating more. So like that, you free up your time to be able to do things that you want to do.
I'm so glad that you're saying that, because contrary advice on the internet right now is that you need to be grinding 20 hours a day, no sleeping, right? You're weak if you sleep, you're failing yourself if you're not in your business all the time, constantly working and grinding. I take the same approach you do, right? My hours are a little bit different because I'm not nearly as far along as you are, right? So, largely 7 to 7 is what I work right now. But I also have a wife who works out of the home, so she's gone for 8 hours anyway. So, I really only have a couple hours on either end while she's gone that, I'm finishing up meetings or whatever. But then when I'm done, that's it. It's her time. It's time to be together and be a family and do the things that, fill her cup up as well and make me a better husband and spouse. You know, you said that it was hard to get to that point. So I'm sure you probably at one point were working 7 to 7 or, 7 to midnight or whatever, and just pissing the wife off all the time. How did you make peace with those boundaries and kind of get over the guilt of not being kind of working all the time? Because I know that's probably a feeling you had.
Um, what happened was that I built bad habits at the beginning. From 2002, when I left the Marine Corps into real estate development, I was able to grow this company so fast and so big because I was working 14, 16, 17-hour days, right? I was able to scale this company fast. And yes, can you grow, become super successful? Yes. But my biggest realization was when I became bankrupt, when I lost everything and I went to zero. I realized that all this time that I spent, all this extra effort, all this hard work, I lost my 4.5 years of my life focusing to work, 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 business, business, business. And I didn't have a personal life. I didn't have fun. I didn't enjoy the ride. I was focused into becoming rich, having money. And when I went bankrupt and you have nothing to show for it, oh my God, I'm 27 years old. I lost 4 years. And where did the time go? I didn't travel the world. I didn't do anything. I didn't do all these things that I wanted to do. So at that moment, that's when I realized, you know what? I want to have a good life. I want to have a better life. And when my second business started, I was working 5 hours a week, like I mentioned before, making $1 million profit a month. I was enjoying life, but I went the other extreme, not working and just enjoying. So when I had my wife and my kids, I started working more and I started putting in more time. And it became a time that I'm like, I'm wasting all this time, but I'm losing time with my kids. I want to spend more time with my kids. I want to be a more present dad. And that's when I really had to set those boundaries where it wasn't only my wife and I, now it's wife, kids, and me. So now it's three. Now I have to really set those boundaries because we also have, when you have kids, you need your one on one time with your wife. Because if not, the kids leave the house and there's no relationship there anymore. So you have to really think for all those things.
I love that answer, man. Thank you so much for that. You're known for mentoring other entrepreneurs, and I'm curious, what drives you to teach others, your secrets to success, and how do you feel about your role as a mentor to other, entrepreneurs?
One of the things is and the reason I got into mentoring and teaching others because I always loved teaching people, and I started very early on. When I left the Marine Corps, I went into this nonprofit website. It's called Score, and I got a mentor. But the mentor that I got, he was so horrible that pretty much he told me, "Don't get into the business that you want to get into." So at that moment, I'm like, you know what? I kind of made a note. I'm like, when I become successful, I'm going to help people, and I'm going to make sure that I push them to become very successful. But later on with time, I made a promise. And when I was selling my first business, I told God, God, please help me sell it. I'm going to give my tithes, just like I did. And that was like the biggest check I ever wrote to a church. Like it was a six-figure check. So I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I never wrote this big check. And I felt unfulfilled. I didn't feel fulfilled after I did that for quite a while. So I'm talking to God. I'm like, God, why do I feel like this way? He's like, because giving money away is not going to serve the purpose that I put you on this earth for. What I want you to do is I want you to teach others how to become successful like you are. And the moment that you teach others how to become successful, they're going to teach others. And that's going to be the legacy that you're going to leave behind. So that's how I really got into mentoring and teaching others is that, you know, I feel so passionate about what I do and I love other ones to become successful that I started figuring out, okay, what are people doing And why are people buying into all these gurus and mentors? And then I'm noticing like, somebody just learns from me and then a week later he has his own program. I'm like, no, life doesn't work like this, right? So let me do what they're not doing. Let me start putting my money where my mouth is. So now what I love to do is I love to invest in entrepreneurs. So if I'm mentoring somebody because I know they're set up for success, I'm like, okay, I want to invest with this person because I know if I'm setting him up for success, he's going to make me a lot of money. So I'm starting to invest with the mentors that I mentor, with the people that I mentor. I mean, with the mentees that I mentor, I'm starting to put my own money with them because I know they're going to be successful and they make me money at the long end. So that gives them a security that they're going to be successful because now somebody's trusting in them. And one of the biggest drivers for somebody to become successful is having somebody else believe in you. And when you know that the person that is mentoring you believes in you, my God, there's no stopping you because number one, now you have all the tools that you ever wanted to become successful. Number two, you have somebody else that trusts you, but also now you can't let somebody else down because they're trusting you and they're putting their money in you. So you better become successful. So that's why people end up being very successful because of that.
I couldn't agree with you more, Edwin, because when I got Alex from ACP and we launched the community and he bought, a membership into my community, I was like, brother, I didn't expect you to be a part of my community. And he's like, I invested in you because I believe in you and I know that you will be successful. And it's like, holy shit, man, nobody's ever in my life, I've never really had anybody invest money into me, telling me they believe in me and that I'm going to be successful. And it was like, you're right. You're absolutely right. Because now in the back of my mind, it's like, I cannot let him down. He
There you
invested
go,
in me
right?
and he believes in me. And it goes further than that, right? Because I really want to get into IVMF's Entrepreneur Bootcamp, which starts at the beginning of next year. I've already moved on past the first round of interviews. So now I'm doing all the things that they suggest to make myself more competitive. And he wrote me a letter of recommendation that I still to this day feel that I'm undeserving of, and it was amazing. And I'm just like, I'm so humbled by his belief in me and like what that's been able to unlock for me. It's amazing. And so I commend you for doing that, man, because as someone who's had someone do that for him, I can tell you how much that actually means to us and how motivating, and I don't even think motivating is the right word, how much it actually helps me believe in myself because someone else is willing to put their hard-earned money and invest it into me. It doesn't matter how much it is. You know what I mean? So kudos to you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Brother, I don't have anything else for you. You have dropped some amazing knowledge bombs on us, and I am so grateful to get to be here and pick your brain. I'd love for you to tell everybody how they can get in touch with you, where they can find your offers at, how they can reach out to you for mentorship and all of that. So, floor is yours, my friend.
Oh, thank you. No, and again, thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me share my space. Thank you for letting me share my story. And to all of you that stay here until then, I promised that I was going to give you something that you're not going to find anywhere on the internet, anywhere on my website. You're only going to get if you are one of my paid clients. But for being on the show, for being on the Veteran Show, you're going to get it. Make sure you DM me on my social media channels at Edwin Carrion 78, Podcast 24, and I'll send you the business super stack, which has a lot of amazing resources. It has the business plan template. It has the win-win negotiation skills. It has my book, Secrets of the Millionaire Gold Buyer, which is going to teach you how to create wealth buying and selling precious metals. And it has a lot of other things that I put in there. So take advantage of that. DM me in my social media, Edwin Carrion 78, and I'll be more than glad to give you this as a free gift in order for you to accelerate your path to success.
Brother, that's so generous of you. I'm so grateful for you offering that up to the audience and to every veteran out there looking to become an entrepreneur. I know that that's going to be super helpful. There's no such thing as too many resources. And I encourage you, like, this may be the universe telling you to get out of your own way and take action. The man is giving you his secrets. And I'm fairly certain what he charges for his coaching is up there in price, and it's probably worth every single penny and then more. So I really appreciate you, brother. One last thing, man. What's the one piece of advice you want to leave the listener with today? The one thing that you hope that they get out of our conversation today?
Yes, two things. Number one is always remember, if you want to do something, take action. That's what got me to where I am today, not thinking about it, but just really taking action. And number two, if you need any help, if you need anything, reach out to me. And just like everyone else, a human, put my pants on the same way that you guys do, maybe a different leg at a time. But I'm reachable. Reach out to me. I'll reply back to you. And if you want to ask a question, become an ask hole. That's one of the things my mentor told me. That no question goes unanswered. So there's a lot of access to a lot of good mentors nowadays. Find one that you like. Find one that you look up to. Follow them, and just ask them questions. If they don't get back to you, be patient or go to the next one. There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of good ones out there. So find the good ones.
Man, that's such powerful advice. It reminds me of Noah Kagan's new book, What is a $1 Million Weekend? The first chapter of that book, he talks about going out and exercising your ask muscle.
Yes.
And you're right, man. You can't, the only thing you're going to get if you don't ask is a straight up no, right? And the worst thing that you can get when you do ask is a no. So it's really, it's a win-win for you. Edwin, I appreciate your time, brother. I know you're a busy man. Thank you so much for choosing to spend an hour of your free time with me today. I really am so grateful for this. And I know that the listener is going to get a lot of value out of this. So I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Mr. Edwin Carrion. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, review, download, all that good stuff. Help me get this in front of 1 million veterans before I turn 40 on May 9th, 2025. Lofty goal, but there's 19.6 million veterans in the United States. So I know that there's one community that can make this happen for us. Also, the Stronghold doors are open. So, come join us. Come, vent all of your frustrations to a community of people who have been where you have been, who are trying to go the same place that you're trying to go, and get actionable advice without all the bullshit on Facebook and get destroyed. Until next week, take care, and we'll see you next week. That's our show, and I'm truly thankful you've joined us at The Strategic Veteran. If our conversation today sparked curiosity, or if you're ready to elevate your game, I'm here to help. Visit thestrategicveteran.com for exclusive show notes and resources, or to book a coaching session directly with me. Take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and share your review. Your support makes all the difference. For more insights and daily strategies, let's connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Remember, this isn't just a podcast, it's your strategic advantage in action. Until our next rendezvous, stay bold and continue the mission.